Hi guys, it's me Robin from RsIslandCrafts. This is the new series that I've been discussing. We're going to talk about scraps. We've all got them. If you sew or do anything with fabric, you're going to have tons and tons of scraps. Big pieces, little pieces. You're going to have holidays, novelties, flannel, specialty. We all have it. There's just scraps everywhere. Unless you're the type of person that cuts the pieces out and then gives away or throws away the rest of the fabric, you're going to be buried in scraps like I am. So I thought, since I'm cleaning up my craft area and I'm organizing my scraps and finding different ways, fun ways and unusual and normal ways to use these scraps, I thought I'd bring you along for an untutorial. So here we go. What you're going to need is you're going to need your scraps. I'm going to be posting up a different video probably every week, taking us step by step, because you're not going to be able to do this all in one day. Unless you only have a handful of scraps, it's going to take you a while to get it all organized. So first off, gather up all your scraps. Get them all together, put them in a laundry basket, put them in a big old clean brand new garbage can, put them in these little bins from the Dollar Tree. I have scraps in those containers. I do have a laundry basket of scraps, and I have a bucket of scraps. I have scraps. I've been trying to organize it. Every time I think I get close to being organized, I find another container of scraps. And the problem is I think you kind of want to keep it to a small container, because the bigger the container, the more scraps you're going to put in. If you just choose to use one of these small containers to store your scraps in, nice little one from the Dollar Tree. This one measures, it's about 9 inches. It's almost 9 inches square. It's probably about 9 by 8.5, 8 3/4. But if you just fill this up and you don't squish all the fabric scraps into it, when it's full, then it's time to get out the iron and the rotary cutter and taming your scraps. But the best way to tame your scraps is when you work on a project and you have scraps that are left over. What I do in my head is what I want to do. When you finish one of your projects, say you're making bags or you're working on a quilt and you have fabric left over, my plan going forward is to take that fabric. If it's a large piece like a fat quarter or yardage, I'm going to cut a straight line and even out the fabric, and then I'm going to fold what's left and put it on my fabric shelves. Then I'm going to take all the jagged pieces where I'd cut stuff out of and I just have little bits left over. Oh, look at the cute little birdie. I'm going to go ahead and take that and then cut it into the prearranged sizes and put it into containers right away. I'm hoping that that's what I can train myself to do. So this is money here. You're spending $10 to $15 a yard for fabric. This piece of fabric is still $10 a yard, whether it's just a little 1 3/4 inch strip or it's the whole full yardage. You still paid the same price for this. So there's no sense wasting this when there's a lot of projects we can do with this fabric. It's too cute to just throw it away. So for your assignment this week, I want you to go ahead and gather all of your scraps and then iron them. Maybe if you have a lot, just choose one bucket to start with. I'm going to try to get through as much as I can before my shoulder hurts from ironing and I just get brain dead. And then as you're ironing it, I will show you what my plans are going to be. I'm going to iron it and then I'm going to set it up into categories. I'm going to make little piles. I'm going to have a pile of small little strips and then larger pieces, so it'll be easier to cut them up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work on this pile and I'll be right back to you. Okay, I've gone ahead and I went through and I ironed a bunch of my scraps and I started separating them. I have a pile where they are the larger pieces, where they're maybe half of a fat quarter or 5 or 6 inches wide, just big chunks of fabric. I found a bunch of little ones that are similar to squares. I even found a couple that were already sewn together in little strips. This is my bucket of strings and strips that I'm going to cut down. They're anything that is wider than 1.5 inches, because that'll be the smallest strip that I'm going to be cutting, all the way up to about 3, 4, 5 inches. Anything bigger than that, and it went ahead and went into this pile. And then I have this scrap pile over here. These pieces, they're the ones that are less than 1.5 inches. They're smaller pieces. They're just strings and chunks, but I'm saving these because I have a special project that I'm going to be using those for. I'll be showing you that tutorial later on in this series, so if you want to work with pieces small like this, then go ahead and save yours. And if you think it's not something you're going to want to do, then you can just go ahead and toss them. So your homework for this week and until the next video comes up will be to iron and organize your scraps and get them ready. You can put them in baskets and bins and buckets or Ziploc bags or whatever you want. You can sort of neatly stack them all into one basket if that's what you need to do. And the other part of your homework is to figure out which containers you're going to use to store your scraps afterwards. Now this is something either you can pick them up or just start thinking about it, because next week I'll show you what sizes we're going to cut, and it might be a good time then to purchase your containers based on your sizes. Now I have previously purchased, see, I have not perfect 2.5 inch squares for hexes, so I keep anything that's a 2.5 to 3 inch square. I keep a whole container of these. I picked these up at the Dollar Tree. Or as we ate cold meat, I saved cold meat containers, and in here I have some of my scraps that are similar to this pile back there, except these are red, white, and blue, because I've been working on red, white, and blue projects. Now my daughter went crazy on the Breyers gelato craze at one point and bought a lot of ice cream, so I saved these containers. And once again, these just have some small things in it that are like that. What I'm planning on doing is I'm planning on picking up a container, probably more like this, to put all those little bits in, so I don't have to have, 10 or 12 of these little containers. But after next week, when we start cutting these up, then I will go to the Dollar Tree and pick up some containers, and I will show you your options of what I think is going to work for me, and you can just go up to your store or use something you already have in your house. So you have your assignment for next week, ironing and sorting your fabric. Remember to like and subscribe. Subscribing is free, there's no charge. YouTube will just let you know when the next video pops up on my channel, and that way you won't miss anything. Alrighty, we'll see you next time. Bye. Okay guys, I ended up popping into the Dollar Tree, and I want to show you what I went ahead and got. I picked up 5 of these plastic shoebox containers, and then I picked up 1 of these baskets. The Dollar Tree right now in my area has a whole bunch of stuff for the summertime, and they always have that one section with lots of organization stuff. I decided, for me, you could get these for your scraps, and these would work really good. They had a whole bunch. There was probably 10 or 12 different types of baskets. But one of the things I was looking at is, you see on the inside of this basket is actually flat, as in saying that the sides only slant in a little, so the bottom of the basket is basically the size of the basket. Now they had some where the sides were really, narrow in, and you weren't getting, if you put strips in here, you're going to be able to stack a lot of strips or a lot of squares. But if you had a smaller basket, even though the top and the width of the basket itself would be large, your bottom would be narrow, so it'd be an issue. And for me, I have 3 cats and a dog, and I'm clumsy. and my house gets a little dusty because it's an older home. So I decided to go with the shoe boxes because this way I can stack them because there's a lid on it. I can knock them over and drop them and not spill out all the fabric, and the cats won't mess with it. My cats like to take naps in my fabric. So if I can avoid putting them, cats in baskets and fabric are magnetic. They just love them. So this way I can put them on shelves in the closet or on a bookcase or just stack them on a table somewhere, and then it'll be easy for me to access and out of the way for the cats. So what I went ahead, and these are the sizes that I'm going to be using for my scraps. The 1.5 inch strips, 2.5 inch strips, 3.5 inch strips, 5 inch strips, and 7 or above. A lot of times if it's not a full fat quarter, I don't always want to cut it down into little things because what if I need something bigger? So I figured this way I can go ahead and just put it in this 7 inch plus strips. I probably won't cut them, so I have the 5 inch strips. I might even, in my mind, I'll probably put anything that's 5 1/4 or above and just use that container for it. This basket I'm going to use for my scraps as I'm making quilts and projects. I'll just toss it into this basket, and then periodically when the basket starts to get full, I'll go ahead and iron them and cut them to put them in here. As I said previously, the goal is to take care of your scraps as soon as you're done with the project instead of letting it fill up into the basket. But I'm very realistic. I know that I'm not always going to do that. There's going to be times when I'm going to be busy, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to be plain out lazy. So I went with a very small basket. This basket is less than 6 inches tall, and it's a little bit more than 12 inches wide. So that's a good size right there, just to keep some scraps in, because actually as long as you're not pressing down on it, you're going to put a lot of scraps in there. So if you want to do it like every month and just take a day and take care of your scraps, you should be okay. So if you don't have anything at home already to use, go ahead and take a trip up to the Dollar Tree, find yourself some containers and whatever will work in your situation. There was reds and purples and 2 different color blues and a neon green. I'd love to have gotten a neon greens, but the only shoe boxes they had were in red. So I have red. You could also get drawers like this and just label them. This is still some of my, I have some, this drawer right here, it has some Ziploc bags with the pre-cut ones in. I have some fat quarters down there, and then just some strips in here, and there's some yo-yos and scraps and stuff. So that's my next area that I'll be going through. Some of them has patterns and other craft supplies, so it's not just purely fabric. So that's some of your options. As you're wandering around the Dollar Tree, like I said, you can get those fabric bins, or they have all different kinds of sizes and shapes of baskets and buckets and small laundry baskets, and those ones, sorry about that, and those ones that you have the handles to take to the beach. Use your creativity and pick out whatever's going to work for you. Okay, so now you remember what your assignment is for the week. You're going to go through and iron your scraps and get them all organized. And if you have the opportunity to pop up to the Dollar Tree, grab yourself containers. Just so you know, these are just the backs of index cards that I just Sharpie markered and put some Scotch tape on to hold them. That way I don't permanently mark the container, so if I change my mind and rearrange my system later and decide I want to do 3 inch strips instead of 3.5, I won't be scratching the marker out all over. Alrighty?